Gathered here, all are present. We do have a quorum. Would you join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We do have one proclamation to present this morning, World TB Day. And I'm going to ask the two of our nurses from Public Health Department, Gabby May and Janie Madison, to come to the podium. The proclamation is there on the podium, and I know you have some comments to make. So, Janie, right?
Right. Okay. Good morning, and thank you for inviting us. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Tuberculosis continues to be one of the world's leading infectious disease killers, with a heavy emphasis on COVID prevention and treatment. Over the last 2 years, some diseases, including TB, has been allowed to regain its footholds in different areas around the country. Because of this, it is extremely gratifying to be recognized for the work we've done in identifying and treating tuberculosis locally. On behalf of my coworker, Gabby May, and myself, I would like to express our sincere appreciation for your recognition of our ongoing efforts, as well as acknowledging our critical role in reducing the spread of TB in Johnson County community. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Well, Janie and Gabby, did you have any comments you want to make?
No.
All right, well, you know, when I saw the proclamation, I think most of us do not recognize the significance of your work in Johnson County. I think, you know, TB is kind of viewed as one of those things of the past, but it's not. It is active in our communities, so thank you very much for your good work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
At this time, we will turn to the public comment portion of our agenda. For those who are speaking today, time is limited to 2 minutes. And if you're speaking in person, there is a modem on the platform where you can look at your time. And if you go over, I'll be required to ask you to conclude. So the first speaker this morning.
In person, we have Ben Hobart. Ben Hobart.
Ben Hobart, Westwood Hills. It is very important for Johnson Countyans to discern who is trustworthy and competent with respect to upcoming medical decisions. In all likelihood, the FDA, CDC, and Pfizer will somehow justify approval of the Pfizer clot shots for children under the age of 5. This decision will likely occur sometime this summer. Who will you rely on to make the decision whether to risk your child's future with the clot shots? About a month ago, I spoke with a city councilman of a Johnson County city about their revisiting of the city's mask mandate. I asked if Dr. Areola was there to discuss the issue. The councilman replied, yes, he was. I asked, did you think he was a medical doctor? He said, yes. He introduced himself as a doctor. I told him that he had a PhD in environmental toxicology, but he was not a medical doctor. The councilman said, well, that would have been good to know. Given Mr. Areola's lack of medical credentials, his past mocking of ivermectin, his exaggeration of the risks of COVID-19, including his view on February 3rd that things are still pretty bad when only 32 children with COVID-19 were hospitalized in Johnson County ICUs, and his dismissal of natural immunity versus risks of the clot shot gene therapy treatments, what credibility should anyone assign to his judgments? What about the CDC? They just reduced their past tally of childhood deaths by 24% due to a, quote, coding logic error. Enough said, more past hype and exaggeration. Only 1,399 alleged deaths over a 20-month period out of 73 million children, 1/500th of a percent. No mention of comorbidity factors. What about the board? Not one of you is a doctor, let alone a virologist or epidemiologist. Your judgments in this arena and your strong recommendation to take the clot shots have been consistently outside your authority and your expertise. Johnson Countyans, don't be fear-mongered into jeopardizing your child's health. Educate yourself regarding the 1,291 potential adverse effects of the clot shots. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, that completes our public comment.
Thank you very much for that comment. I would simply add this. Dr. Areola is highly qualified to hold the position that he has with the Department of Public Health. Thank you very much. I do have one note for the record. I will be signing an agreement with the City of Shawnee for design of a stormwater management project known as 67th Street and Cottonwood Drive Stormwater Improvements. That concludes notes for the record. Moving to the consent agenda. Clerk, please read.
Item number 1, consider approving the March 3rd, 2022 business session minutes. Item number 2, consider appointing Annabeth Serball as the 2nd District Representative to the 10th Judicial District Nominating Commission through March 2nd, 2026. Consider appointing Mike Zinga as the 3rd District Representative to the 10th Judicial District Nominating Commission through March 2nd, 2026. And item number 4, sitting as the governing body of Fire District Number 2 of Johnson County, consider entering into a real estate purchase contract in connection with the contemplated sale of the fire station and land located at 19065 South Lackman Road, Olathe, Kansas, 66062, for a sales price of $540,000 to the Johnson County Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you. Is there any commissioner who would like to have an item considered separately? Ms. O'Hara?
I don't want an item considered separately. I just wanted to let you know that it's Mike Zinnigy. The pronunciation for Mike, it's Mike Zinnigy.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Mr. Ashcraft?
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to move approval of the consent agenda as read, but I did want to make one comment, Mr. Chairman. On this item, I believe this will be Chief Francis's last agenda item as he transitions from fire chief to another role. It's been a challenging and rewarding past 3 years, about I think is how long, 4 years, excuse me. I stand corrected that he has attempted to shepherd this effort, and it's been a difficult and challenging, but I think appropriate ride, and I wanted to thank the chief and the assistance that he may have received from time to time from Maury Thompson, the deputy county manager.
Okay. I will certainly second that. Chief Francis, your talents have been very, very important to the commission, to the county, and to the taxpayers of Fire District Number 2. You've done an outstanding job for them all the way through. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Well, the motion's not been made yet, so,
No,
well, I haven't asked for public comment.
well, I will withdraw everything I said then.
Me too.
Is there anyone present who would like to have an item considered separately more than what we've already done? If not, Mr. Ashcraft, your motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I will try to repeat, but I would move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Alan Brand, second.
Ashcraft made the motion to approve. Allen Brand seconded the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast. Aye. Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Alan Brand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Next item, item number 5.
Application number SW22-184-PPFPGA, and plat exception authorization number 03-24-22, Phelps Engineering applicant, and Nicholas J. Buell and Robert B. and Andrea Blakely as landowners are requesting a preliminary and final plat for 2 residential lots to be known as Gardner Estates at the Lake, second replat on approximately 2.5 acres on property zoned PRU-1B, planned residential urban single-family 1B district located at 16088 and 16100 Gardner Place, plus a requested plat exception.
Ms. Kurtz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good morning. Michelle Cricks with Johnson County Planning. And this is a request for a preliminary and final plat for 2 residential lots on approximately 2.5 acres of platted property zoned planned rural urban single-family 1B district. The subject property is located along Gardner Place at the southern tip of Gardner Lake, as you can see here on the vicinity map. And the lot is located north of the city of Gardner. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. East of this property is the lake. North, west, and south is single-family residential, which is very typical of the Gardner Lake area. The houses on the lots have been in place for 50 years or more. Both lots have existing driveways onto Gardner Place, which is not proposed to change, and there are no construction is actually proposed on these lots with this replat. This slide here shows the preliminary plat. The application is to reconfigure the 2 lots by relocating the common lot line between Lot 3 and Lot 4 to the north approximately 38 feet. The owner of Lot 4, which is that southern lot, has requested to move that lot line so they can have a more direct access from their driveway to their rear yard without having to drive across the front of their yard or to cross over to the lot to the north of property they don't own. Also included in this application are requests for a plat exception for the lot depth to lot width ratio and a waiver from the minimum infrastructure requirement for Gardner Place. This is the final plat, and the final plat does comply with all required zoning and subdivision regulations, with exception to the plat exception and the infrastructure waiver requested by the applicant. Planning staff did recommend approval of this item. The Southwest Consolidated Zoning Board heard this item at the February 23rd, 2022 hearing and recommended approval of both the preliminary and final plat with stipulations. They were also supportive of the plat exception and infrastructure waiver. No one from the public spoke on this item. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Questions of the staff? Is the applicant present? Any comments you'd like to make? Okay, so noted. Anyone else wish to make any comments? If not, the items are back before the commission, and a motion would be in order. Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve application number SW 22-184PP/FPGA, a preliminary and final plat for 2 residential lots to be known as Gardner Estates at the Lake. Second request for the requested minimum infrastructure waiver for the reasons and subject to speculations recommended by the Southwest Consolidated Zoning Board.
Second,
sorry.
Hanslick.
Oh, wait, I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right, there's a
And I
second
move to
part.
approve the plat exemption authorization 032422 for the reasons recommended by the Southwest Consolidated Zoning Board.
Hanslick, second.
All right, Allenbrand made the motion. Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the application and the plating as recommended by the zoning board. Any further questions or discussion? If not, excuse me, Ms. Fast, did you have any question?
No.
All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast? Aye. Commissioner Myers?
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick?
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand?
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor, motion carried. Item number 6.
Resolution number 014-22, request for approval of an accessory dwelling unit permit for a detached accessory dwelling unit with a livable area in excess of 900 square feet on 24.74 acres located at 25320 West 131st Street, Olathe Township, Section 29, Township 13, Range 23.
Ms. Kirks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michelle Cricks with Johnson County Planning. This is a request for approval for an accessory dwelling unit permit for a 1,000 square foot accessory dwelling on 24.74 acres on property zoned rural district. The subject property is located southwest of 127th Street and Lakeshore Drive intersection, as you can see here on the vicinity map, and the lot is located west of the city of Olathe. Generally, an accessory dwelling units are allowed with an administratively approved certificate, provided all requirements of ADUs are met. And according to the regulations, when the proposed ADU does not meet all the performance standards that allow an administrative approval by staff, an ADU must be approved with an accessory dwelling unit permit with a public hearing. So this item before you did not meet all those standards by going over 900 square feet. So this is why this is before you today. Here's an aerial of the subject property, which identifies the principal dwelling unit or the main home and multiple accessory buildings and an earth contact garage. The location of the earth contact garage would be the location of the ADU, which is identified in red on this slide. Just for a quick context, here is a couple pictures of that earth contact garage. On the bottom picture, you can see the principal dwelling unit up to the top left of that picture. Here is a site plan of the subject property. The applicant is proposing to remove that existing earth contact detached garage and construct a larger earth contact detached garage with a second level for the ADU and a workshop. The ADU is proposed to be 1,000 square feet in size and would be occupied by an aging family member. The ADU would be approximately 115 feet behind the principal home. The applicant has requested a larger ADU so that family member would have a hobby area and a sewing area, and it also would allow for accessibility for mobile aids, such as a walker or wheelchair, should that be necessary in the future. This is the west elevation of the proposed ADU. You can see here it's proposed to be very residential looking in nature. The front door, which would be on the right side of this plan, is got wall sconces on either side for a very, very residential look. And the proposed height of the structure is about to be 14 feet, about 11 inches in height. The ADU is also proposed to be approximately 230 feet from the nearest property line and over 400 feet from the nearest residential structure. And the minimum side yard setbacks in the RUR, just for note, is 25 feet. Planning staff did recommend approval of this item. The Northwest Consolidated Zoning Board heard this item at their February 21st, 2022 hearing and recommended approval of an accessory dwelling unit with stipulations, and no one from the public spoke on this item. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Ms. Hanslick, question.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Cricks. So really the only reason this is before us is because of 100 square feet difference in
That's
that
correct,
ADU.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I don't often comment on redistricting, or not redistricting, dwelling unit changes like this, but I just wanted to make a comment to the family. That looks like a nice addition for extended family members, so I commend you for that. I hope it turns out as nice as I kind of envisioned it in that graphic.
Other questions? Is the applicant present? Any comments you would like to make? All right, for the record, no comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this item? If not, it's back before the commission. Commissioner Allenbrand, do you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I also want to make a comment that what a great thing you're doing. I'm not sure my kids would let me move in next to them, so I may have them call you to talk to you. I move to adopt resolution number 014-22, which approves an accessory dwelling unit permit for 1,000 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit, subject to the reason and stipulations set before in the resolution.
Hanslick, second.
Allenbrand made the motion. Commissioner Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the application and the request, the approval of the accessory dwelling unit as recommended. Any further questions or comments? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor, motion carried. Next item.
Item number 7, resolution number 015-22, consider City of Olathe application number RZ 21-0018 for a rezoning and a preliminary site development plan for an auto soak car wash located on the northeast corner of 151st Street and Haskins Street, Olathe, Kansas, and located within 1 mile of the Johnson County Executive Airport.
Ms. Wicklund.
Good morning, Diane Wicklund, Planning Department. The subject property is located at 151st Street and Haskins Street, which is just east of Plum Road, as you can see here on the vicinity map. The subject property is located within City of Olathe and located within 1 mile of the Executive Airport, which is why the application is before you for review of airport compatibility. This request is for a City of Olathe application for rezoning and a preliminary development plan for auto soak car wash for construction of a tunnel car wash facility. Here's an aerial view of, of the subject property outlined in blue. And then here's another aerial view showing the surrounding area and the Executive Airport. Here's a copy of the site plan, and then the building elevations of what the facility will look like. Also, just to note, the application has received the FAA approval, which is a determination of no hazard to air navigation. Planning staff recommends approval, and the Airport Commission also recommended approval of the application with stipulations and had no concerns or issues. Also to note that there were no members of the public that spoke on this item at the public hearing. And with that, I can stand for questions. And the applicant, Curtis Holland, is also present on Zoom. Thank you.
Just to note, this comes before us because it is within 1 mile of New Century Airport. The City of Olathe and other jurisdictions have approved this. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
All right.
correct.
Questions? Ms. O'Hara?
Yes, this is just east of Plum Road, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so this is by Executive Airport?
Correct.
That's, okay, I just want to make that clarification. And the Airport Commission, and I think I will defer to Commissioner Allenbrand on this, since you were the liaison with this, that they have no concerns about this continuing intense development around Executive is going to impede the operations of the airport.
Yes, Commissioner O'Hara, thank you for asking that, because I did reach out to Ms. Wicklund and ask her that, and it is within the, it's not within the safety zone, so it has been approved, right? Did I say that right?
That's correct.
Okay, because we've got to worry about that flight safety zone, so.
Correct. That the subject property is outside of the flight corridor and outside of the RPZ, the runway protection zone.
Okay.
And Larry Pete is also on the line, I think, if there's any additional questions.
And they have FAA approval, so.
Okay, when you're ready, Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
Okay. Other questions by commission? Is the applicant present at all?
Chairman, we have Mary Claire Ammer on Zoom. I'm not for sure if we open her up to see if she has any comments.
Is there any comment by the applicant? Okay.
Mary,
I have no comment. Just, we've been through the process. We've been, we agree to the stipulations put forth by the Airport Commission and the city. And just look forward to your approval as well.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no other questions, it's back for the commission. Ms. O'Hara, did you have a motion?
Yes, I do. I move to adopt resolution number 015-22, approving a rezoning and a preliminary site development plan for auto soak car wash located within 1 mile of the Johnson County Executive Airport for the reasons and subject to the stipulations as recommended by the Airport Commission.
Allenbrand, second.
O'Hara made the motion. Allenbrand seconded the motion to approve the resolution in regards to the rezoning in the city of Olathe within 1 mile of the executive airport. Any further questions or comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast. Aye. Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Are there any other items on the action agenda?
No, sir.
All right, turning to reports and communications, County Manager.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I have 4 items this morning for you on the manager's memo. The first item, I'd like Tara Markley to come forward, Extension Director. She's going to highlight our Johnson County Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, and then I'll cover the other 3 items. So, Tara, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, County Manager, County Commissioners. Thank you for letting us come. Tara Markley, the County Extension Director here in Johnson County. We're very excited to share our program spotlight. I have Judy Sharp here with me as well, so you'll hear from the expert. I'm just the director, right? So first I want to talk about what is, if we could advance the slide, or is that my job? Can I drive? Okay, thanks. So the Volunteer Income Tax Site, VITA, is an IRS program that trains and certifies volunteers to offer tax help to eligible taxpayers. Since 2010, KSRE, K-State Research and Extension, has been involved with VITA within Johnson County. That first year, we partner with El Centro, so El Centro had the vision to bring it to Johnson County, and then in that 2010, we partnered with them. They did 135 returns. And the space wasn't ideal, and it just wasn't working out. So with one of our agents at the time said, hey, let's work this out. Let's bring this over to the Sunset Building. And then in 2011, we moved it to the Sunset Building, and we were able to do 330 returns that year. So we were able to build that capacity, which is fantastic. We are now one of the largest VITA sites within the KC metro area. It's free. The service is free. And I will say on this slide, this is why I am not the expert for VITA. The free service is for participants making $58,000. So I was like, oh, I got a number wrong, but I am not doing your taxes. But I will take ownership that it is not $55,000, it's $58,000 or less. The returns are filed electronically, and Judy will speak to how COVID impacted this process. It's a first come, first served basis. So this helps maximize the number of returns and also the volunteers' time while they're doing that. There's almost 80% return of clients that come back each year. So this is a service that is needed in our community and is utilized. They can mail in or drop off. Clients bring in their previous tax returns and their current year's information. The volunteers then are trained to look to see if there are any errors, and they'll file amendments if need be. Almost all clients get refunds because they are in that lower income bracket. Volunteers are trained to seek out and obtain income tax deductions and credits the taxpayer is eligible to claim. And as I mentioned before, everything we do is with partners, and so El Centro is that key partner. We also, DTI, so the Department of Technology and Innovation, they help us make sure that everything's running properly, which we wanted to give a shout out for that. PCs for People helps with the actual laptops and computers and Wi-Fi. MU Extension, we cross the border, which is great. And then also the Kansas City Metro Tax Coalition. So that's the hub with the United Way of Greater Kansas City. And then in 2021, they prepared 1,259 tax returns, which resulted in over 1.6 million back to our community and savings for those residents. And last year we had 30 IRS trained volunteers. But now I'm going to turn it over to Judy. Judy is not only a VITA volunteer, but she also serves on the Extension Council Board, and she's also a Master Gardener. So she is highly talented, the expert. I'll turn it over to her to share her story and impact.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've been a VITA volunteer now this is my 5th year, and it's very gratifying work for the volunteers. You would be touched at the devotion we have to our clients and getting their tax returns done. Unfortunately, the last couple of years, of course, we've had to social distance a great deal, wear masks. We haven't been able to have the taxpayers into the office where we generally prepare their returns while they wait and we have to have at least 2 volunteers look at each return this is an IRS rule, to ensure that they are accurate and we have to take qualifying tests in order to do this. But we still manage to do returns as on a drop-off basis, and we telephone them to discuss the returns, because we must do that, of course, before we can actually file them, and to make sure that they don't have, or to answer any questions that they may have. The numbers we gave you the other day, just in one day of work, we increased, we did 36 tax returns, more tax returns. We raised the amount of money that we saved Johnson Countyans by almost $30,000. This is just one half day of our work. As you can see from the statistics we gave you, the average gross income of our clients is about $29,000 or $30,000. I want to tell you about some of the people who come to us each year. Some of them are seniors whose income is so low that they don't pay any tax to either the Internal Revenue Service or to the state of Kansas. They are coming to us because they need the real estate rebate from the state of Kansas. Sometimes that's as low as $35, but it's important money to those seniors. We have other people who are workers, very hard workers, and they qualify. They, again, don't pay any income taxes. They do have a burden, of course, as any worker does with the Social Security and Medicare system, but they qualify for refundable credits under IRS law, and they come to us for help to obtain those. Most of these refunds will be paid by direct deposit. Returns that we file today might be paid as soon as 2 weeks, and so you can imagine what important supplemental income this is for people in this demographic. We have disabled people who come to us. So we have deaf people, and the Extension Service provides translators so that we can communicate with these people, make sure they understand their tax returns, understand their responsibility for what's contained in their tax return, answer any questions they have, and help them get those badly needed refunds. One thing that we didn't tell you about, because it's not as apparent or really even measurable for us, is what these people are saving in not paying a paid tax preparer to prepare their returns. We estimate that it's about $250 for even some of the simplest returns that people get prepared by professionals. There are lots of people with higher incomes than this that can support that industry. I don't mean to demean it at all, but these are the people that don't need to be paying $250 for their returns. And obviously, those seniors I talked about who are only getting $35 or $50 or $75 or $100 back from paying their real estate taxes, they would have a net loss if they had to pay somebody to do that. So we hope you appreciate the work we do. I will tell you that our taxpayers are very grateful to us and grateful to you for providing support to the Extension Service and allowing us to do this rewarding work. We will be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. It is important work, and thank you for those who offer that service, and it's appreciated very much. Mr. Myers?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your work. Do you ever have you been having to turn away any clients at this time?
We sometimes do that when we do it in person. Because we have just so many volunteers and they've committed a certain chunk of the day. We typically are working 3 days a week, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. People sometimes will come to the extension office and be standing out there in the cold in February at 7 o'clock, an hour before the doors open, in order to be that first person in line. We have to take them on a first-come, first-served basis. The other site in town, which is large, is one that is in Midtown Kansas City, Missouri, and they kind of experimented with making appointments for people, but if, you know, a lot of times when people don't have a little skin in the game, they haven't paid for this appointment, you know, they aren't very respectful necessarily, or something comes up and there's about a 50% no-show rate when you make appointments for people. So when we can do this live, we have people just come and they wait, and they still are very appreciative to us for committing our time and our effort on their behalf. And on those days, we do have to turn people aside because, you know, we only have so many volunteers. But we do allow people to drop off, and so they can always leave their materials and let us prepare the return and call them like we are doing now these last 2 years during the COVID.
And you have, are you in person at this time?
We're not in person yet. We hope to be next year.
Okay.
All right,
Not
thank
only
you.
did we have to handle with COVID, but with the construction and Sunset Building, we adapted even more. So we have been pivoting left and right to make this happen.
Other questions? Ms.
Yes.
O'Hara?
How many volunteers do you have?
35, about 34.
34 this year.
Thank you.
Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to go off on the fact that the tax system is a racket, so I very much appreciate your efforts. Just one question, though. How did we come up with 58,000 or less? Why that amount?
I believe it's based
the
on
IRS.
median income, a certain percentage of median income.
And that number comes from the IRS.
Yes, it is set by IRS rule.
Oh, then it must be right.
And Ms. Allenbrand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Markley, you totally amaze me because every time I see you, you're somewhere. And I didn't recognize you. The last time I saw you was at the 4-H livestock show. So we look a little bit different. You'd been out there volunteering all day.
It's not quite as hot.
Yeah. Ms. Markley, Ms. Sharp, I really appreciate your services. This has been going on for some time, and it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of organizing and time. So I really appreciate everyone that's involved in this. Thank you for taking care of our seniors.
All right, any other comments? All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you
all.
for
Thank you
being
for
here
your
and sharing the outstanding work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Yes, next item, the SERI report is in your packet. It's the March edition, but most of the information is as of January. So we've got 1 month of data, and then the sales tax is as of December year-to-date from last year. So I will highlight the unemployment rate is 2.2% compared to 4.9% this time last year. At a high level, family home sales and single-family building permits are down by double digits. However, it's 1 month. And then the sales tax information is in your packet, consistent with what we've reported before. So with that, I'll see if there's questions for Siri. I will also remind the board that Siri and Mark will be here to talk about economic development data on April 7th. They were rescheduled from today to April 7th.
Okay. All right, next.
Okay. Next item, Juneteenth. As you may recall, last October, you made Juneteenth a standard fixed county holiday. And I wanted to share with you that county staff across the organization are working together with other organizations and community members on a campaign called Juneteenth and JoCo, Learn the Past, Change the Future. This campaign will encompass both the history of Juneteenth and the various ways Johnson County residents can observe it. Johnson County government will be sponsoring some events as well as promoting and celebrating taking place across the county. Information on these events will be in the spring edition of the JoCo magazine, and a website has been created as a resource to find out additional information, and that's jocogov.org/Juneteenth. And I'll see if you have any questions on that. And Jody Hansen is on Zoom. She's been kind of our lead person on this as well.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Post-Oak-Ferguson, a quick question. When this was presented, there was discussion and expectation that other governmental units would also be opting into this holiday celebration. Has that been successful? Has that spread as anticipated?
I don't have the updated what cities have contributed, have had that as well, although I know there are a number that were talking about it, and I don't have that update.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? All
Okay.
right.
Last item is Women's History Month. March is Women's History Month. And this week, our Public Information Office is sharing stories of women past and present who have made an impact on our community. A web article on the homepage of jocogov.org tells several stories of notable JOCO women in history from all walks of life. And in addition, this week's episode of the county's podcast, JOCO on the Go, features 2 Johnson County government employees who are local history experts and share some great stories of JOCO women in history. So we wanted to share that with you. And then again, also Jody Hansen is taking the lead on this. She's on Zoom if you have additional questions. And with that, Chairman, that's it for my report this morning.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next item, I believe, Mr. Thompson.
Yes, good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Maury Thompson, Deputy County Manager, with an acknowledgement that I'm probably ill-prepared to give the legislative report today because turnaround day concluded yesterday. The House adjourned sometime yesterday. Senate did not adjourn until sometime after midnight. So we are frantically sorting through action that occurred yesterday. Stephen Durst with Federico Durst is trying to get a hold of me this morning to begin that debriefing process, and just moments ago I received some summary of action I haven't had an opportunity to read. But in general, as we know, the session is really turning to tax and budget issues. One comment on the tax issue, food sales tax, number of bills that I've reported on previously. We'll see as that goes to conference committee what shakes out, as they say, in terms of the final piece of legislation on reduction or elimination of food sales tax. Both chambers passed their budget. Senate passed theirs last week. The House just passed theirs yesterday. On the Senate side, remarkably, budget passed really as presented to the chamber with only 2 amendments to the budget. One, which were made on the floor, of course. One measure by Senator Holland, Tom Holland of Douglas County, to require state agencies to use the electronic verify system before entering into contracts with vendors. And then the second one was an amendment made by Senator Karen Tyson of Parker to increase the amount of pay for legislative staff by 15%. So again, two amendments made to the Senate budget. House passed their budget yesterday, as I mentioned, so those will now go to conference committee to work out differences. And last comment, speaking of budget, some good news that we are aware of, because one piece of consistency we saw through the process, the governor had recommended additional funding for the Kansas Department of Corrections, specifically for community corrections programs. Both the Senate and House retained those proposals in their budgets, so that will be part of the final budget bill. Details were $2.6 million in the current fiscal year and $8.4 million in fiscal year 2023 for community corrections grants, and then a restoration of an additional $21 million in the Juvenile Evidence-Based Practices Fund, which we will have access to. So some good news for our corrections department there. And with that, happy to stand for questions.
Questions? Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Thompson, I think it's called the sunflower. It's some kind of sunflower bill to do with taxes, property taxes. Do you know what that bill is? Do you know what it is, Commissioner Hanslick? I think it was passed to help with people that are at a certain income and homes.
SB 76?
SB 76.
No update on that. Again, need to analyze the budget bills and see what form. I'm sure some proposal we've talked about. There was a number of different bills dealing with that same subject matter to see what was contained in the final budgets. And then again, we'll have to go to conference to work out the differences, so we'll continue to watch that one.
Last night that it passed, so they might have had misinformation. Okay, thank you.
Sounds like
Yes, thank you, Mr. Thompson. In that same regard, I'd be very interested when Federico and Durst and you have had a chance to see where everything shakes down, where we are with the Homestead and SafeSers.
Absolutely.
You know, we just heard from our folks at Extension
Right.
that unfortunately, the way that program is set up, it isn't ideal for people who live in Johnson County who may have homes that have increased in value far beyond the requirements in that program, and they may be above the income requirements, but here in Johnson County, they are still struggling. And I think those are the kind of programs that it's really important for our state to invest in, because that, we hear a lot about people wanting property tax relief. There are folks in our community who are in much greater need of that kind of relief than others. And if we can target those kinds of programs to help those folks stay in their homes and continue to live in our communities, it's so important. So I look forward to hearing where those bills where they stand at this point.
Good. And I will share a summary, so you don't have to wait until next week as soon as I've got something to get to you all. Yeah, absolutely.
Commissioner Fast, did you have any questions?
No.
All right, thank you. Other questions? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. Next item is COVID-19 update. Dr. Ariola.
Charlie Hunt, Deputy Director of Health and Environment. Dr. Ariola is not with us
Very
today.
good.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you very much. I'll provide a brief update. You're very familiar with the information we've been presenting over time, so I will run through this relatively quickly. Next slide, please. First, the key community metrics that we've been reporting pretty consistently. The incidence of new cases over the past 7 days at 28 per 100,000 population is the lowest it's been since the first week of July 2021. And this represents a decline essentially over the last 8 weeks since the peak of 2,397 per 100,000 population, which we reached at the end of January, January 25th to be exact. Next slide. Percent positivity, we are continuing to report the percent positive cases. This metric has been dropped from the new CDC metrics, but we continue to report it on our website. Just as a reminder, this is calculated only using PCR tests, and over the past 7 days, that's at 2.4%, and this is the lowest it's been since June of 2021. So again, continuing decline there. Switching over to vaccination data, the first graph, next slide, please. The first set of figures is based on Kansas WebIZ data. So again, this is only people who are vaccinated within the state of Kansas. And for Johnson County, we have 77.6% of the eligible population ages 5 years and older that have been vaccinated with 2 doses of the mRNA vaccine or 1 dose of the J&J vaccine. Next slide, please. And this is the cumulative vaccination by age group over time. And while we continue to see additional people getting vaccinated, it's clear from the graph here that you can see that the rate of increase has slowed considerably. But again, people are continuing to get vaccinated. Next slide. And then this is percent of population vaccinated by age group. And this is just, the age groups are broken up just a little bit differently. So you can see, particularly for the younger age groups, you can see that broken out by different ages. And I'll just run through this. The percentage of those 18 years of age and older is 68.2%. For those 12 to 17 years of age, it's 66.6%. And for those 5 to 11 years of age, it's 35.5%. Next slide. The CDC data, again, this is more comprehensive because it includes people who are vaccinated outside the state of Kansas. According to CDC, 79.5% of the eligible population ages 5 years and older have been fully vaccinated for Johnson County. Next slide. And then finally, I want to highlight just the data from CDC that includes the booster dose. And again, this is the eligible population ages 12 and up that are eligible for booster doses, and that stands at 44.1%. Next slide. And finally, just some additional information that I'm sure you're aware from the news reporting. The Omicron variant BA2, which is now dominant globally and has been increasing in the U.S. In fact, in the U.S., it comprises just a little over 1/3 of all cases at 34.9%. It's a little bit lower than that for our region, Region 7, which includes Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. The BA2 sublineage variant comprises about 19% of cases. Despite the fact that the number of cases has been declining over the last several weeks here, globally, the number of weekly cases actually rose for the second consecutive week as of March 20, and we're also seeing in the U.S. cases are rising again in several states. So we are obviously continuing to watch what's happening globally and nationally, and we'll see what happens here in Kansas with the BA2 variant. And with that, I'll be happy to stand for questions.
I have a general question, and this is primarily for the commission, and I guess, Mr. Hunt, if you have a comment. With our numbers where they're at, should we go to, I'm going to suggest that we go to a report once a month, perhaps at the second meeting of the month, rather than every 2 weeks. Is there any objection to that? Okay. All right, we'll do so. So the next report will be the second meeting in April. Ms. O'Hara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hunt, on this new variant, are we tracking hospitalizations? Because this is the critical issue as to the severity of it. Does this appear to be even less severe than the Omicron that we've just gone through?
Sure, yes, and we are tracking hospitalizations. I didn't include it in the report here. I would say, generally speaking, over the last few weeks, the hospitalizations have declined, although again, the numbers kind of go up and down. And if that's also tracked on a regional basis by the Mid-America Regional Council. Again, generally speaking, there's a decline over the last few weeks, but it has gone up and down a little bit. So it is something we want to keep an eye on.
And of course, with our focus on COVID, there have been other issues that have languished out of the spotlight. TB was one that was presented this morning. So it's that we need to find that balance to be addressing the real needs of our community, and not be just focused on this one issue that seems to be subsiding significantly, which is wonderful. Then my second question is, I just got a copy of the COVID-19 policy for child care centers that was issued on the 23rd of March. And how does this differ from the guidelines to school districts?
Well, as things stand right now, this document that was updated yesterday aligns more closely with the updated CDC recommendations. We have not formally revised our school guidelines, but we were in the process of doing that as well.
Okay, so do the guidance for the schools, will they be similar to the guidance for the child care centers, or do the child care centers differ significantly?
I suspect that it will be very similar, but again, we haven't completed that yet, but we're in the process of doing so.
Okay, can you make sure that I get a copy of that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I would amend my suggestion, unless the numbers change or the activities pick up, we will stick with once a month. Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hunt, I'll direct this to you, but maybe it's more to the chair and the county manager. But I was wondering, are we at the point that we still need to have the same social distancing in the chamber, especially for the audience? I know it's not particularly crowded today, but I was just wondering if there are any plans or could be plans to repopulate the seating arrangement, and just kind of an observation.
If the question is directed at me, I would say yes, that possibility exists.
Well, I don't know who makes that decision, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, we will consult the health department. I know that we are looking at it, so
okay,
probably change soon.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, a second question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Hunt, on slides 6 and 7, I'm always a little confused about this. For the population group 5 to 11, it appears that it's plateaued, but we report, if I'm reading this correctly, 45% and 35% respectively, but the CDC's almost double that. I mean, that's a significant difference. As a lay reader, which one should I be paying attention to? I mean, the 95 sounds very, very good, but the 45 sounds like, well, a lot of people aren't as concerned as you may want.
Sure. Well, again, the primary difference here is that the data from KS WebIZ, which is the state vaccination registry, only includes people that are vaccinated within the state of Kansas. So if they're vaccinated in Johnson County or they're vaccinated somewhere else in Kansas, that information and the data goes into the state registry. If they're vaccinated in another state, in all likelihood, that information is not coming into it. So the CDC data are more complete, and so that's why you see the percentages being high.
So almost twice as many people,
depending on the age group, potentially.
are vaccinated outside of the state?
Depending on the age group, potentially.
It could be. I mean, just take our metro area. How many folks might have received medical services from Missouri?
Well, almost an equal number. It's hard to believe for me.
Half of my family or more has been vaccinated in Missouri rather than Kansas, some because of work situations, some because of their physicians where they reside.
And Commissioner Ashcraft, well, I guess just one clarification to keep in mind is that on slide 6, the bars there represent just that age group, so 5 to 11 years of age, whereas the CDC graph or chart on page 7 includes those at above a certain age, so it's 5 years.
Okay.
So it's
I appreciate that clarification.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? Ms. O'Hara?
Yes, I do just have a process question. On the configuration of the seating in the boardroom, isn't that a policy issue that the board should be making? Because this is our area of responsibility?
That's entirely up to the board. I think we've made the decisions based upon the recommendations of the Public Health Department.
Okay, so
And I think the board should continue to follow those. I think we're at the point, I've attended several activities in the community, whether it's chamber events or other events, where social distancing is not required. And so I think the community's moving towards that direction, and we should also.
yeah, I think that it would just be nice if we would just, I totally agree with you, and we have staff that's not socially distanced, and it just, I would like to make a motion that we direct the county manager to consult with the health department and reconfigure this as soon as possible.
Ms. Hanslick?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate those comments, Commissioner O'Hara. I would suggest along those lines that as we have throughout the pandemic with our subcommittee of myself, the chair, and Commissioner Ashcraft, that we take those recommendations from the county manager and the health department, and then bring that our subcommittee bring that back as a recommendation to the full board.
Mr. Chairman, I have made a motion.
All right, I recognize the motion. Is there a second?
Can I make a comment?
Well, is there a second? If there's not, the motion dies for lack of a second. Ms. Allenbrand, you have a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would agree. I appreciate what Commissioner O'Hara is saying, but I do believe that that's part of the county manager's responsibility in working with the subcommittee. And if we could do it that way, I have full, complete trust in those three.
Okay.
4.
Mr. Ashcraft?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate both Commissioner Hanslick and Commissioner O'Hara's interest. I'm not sure we need that kind of formality. I mean, we just move the deck chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Leave it up to the county
I would
manager.
agree.
Yeah.
All right, are there other comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunt. There are no other reports to receive this morning, so we'll turn to commission comments. We'll begin with Commissioner Fast.
I have none.
All right, Commissioner Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a question, Commissioner Ashcraft, are you calling us ducks?
Deck chairs.
Duck chairs.
Deck.
Okay. Deck.
As in
okay.
the Titanic.
I thought you were calling us a duck. I'm like, wow, okay. Okay.
You can call me a quack, that's fine. That's what Jeff is saying.
Well, you know, some good laughter is always good, right? Well, yesterday I had the pleasure of going to Wig and Turtle Manufacturer Company that's in DeSoto, and they manufacture and recycle plastics. And I invited Commissioner Hanslick to go along with me because I know that's a passion of hers as well. And then also Mr. Waters attended along with Kansas Health and Environment. It was very, very interesting. I have already from that conversation have set up some other meetings with the college and some other people to look at it. But, you know, if we could recycle a lot of our plastics, that would be phenomenal. So I really appreciate Mr. Waters going and our staff because they're excited as well to see if there can be some sort of working relationship. Also attended the Southwest Johnson County EDC meeting last night. There's a lot of movement going on, so there's a lot of, it's busy. The Airport Commission meeting, I did not attend it, but it was a 2.5-hour meeting, so it's busy at the airport as well. This Friday is the DeSoto annual dinner. And then also on Saturday is the Taste of the Town. I think it's sold out, but if you're interested in going, it is for the Olathe School Foundation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Ashcraft.
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Hanslick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a number of updates. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Allenbrand for the opportunity to visit the Ray-Rig Pacific Company. Just a fascinating place, and what they're doing in their innovation for recycling is quite amazing. And we had some opportunities to talk about potential partnerships in terms of their labor needs and transit needs. So thank you for that opportunity. Last Friday, we had our Johnson County Transportation Council, where Josh Powers gave a pilot program update. He's not going to go into great detail, but May 1st, the commuter express routes will be changing per that program. And then July 1st is scheduled to be the implementation of the extended microtransit service area. We also discussed some potential Federal Transit Authority funding for what are called no-low vehicles, no or low emission vehicles, and there was support for potentially pursuing funding to get a couple of those in our fleet. Yesterday, we had the Mid-America Regional Council Board meeting, and glad to have Commissioner Fast joining us on that board. Excited to have her input. Just a couple things from that meeting. We did have an update on the Buck O'Neill Bridge. While that's not in Johnson County, I think it impacts a lot of folks who may drive in from there. It's moving along as scheduled, and it is required to be completed by December of 2024. And you can go online if you need to know more specifics. And finally, at Mark, the other issue was we discussed the Parade of Hearts, which, as you know, may know is going on in the region to help lift spirits and focus on the positive things as we are hopefully coming out of the pandemic. And the main thing I wanted to mention about that is there is now an app for the Parade of Hearts. So if you go to your app store, you can download that and see where all of the hearts are and get information about the artists. And finally, just wanted to mention that next Wednesday, I will be joining Dr. Areola in Manhattan for the Kansas Governor's Public Health Conference. We'll be speaking together about the importance of the relationship between county commissioners and public health officers in Manhattan. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Very short, but being the new liaison for the KCATA, my first meeting was yesterday. Very long, informative, a good meeting, and a lot of new people that I was able to meet from around the region. Just an excellent board to be associated with, and glad to be doing that work. And I will be making reports to the commission whenever there is something that I think is important for us all to hear. I will make those comments, but again, any commissioner that has questions or needs to see agenda or things of that nature, it's easily found and used, and I have copies generally in my, or will have copies generally in my office.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner O'Hara?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To follow on with Commissioner Myers' comments about the Kansas City Area Transit Authority, we still have not had resolved their newfound power to come over to the Kansas side and use eminent domain to transfer private property to private developers for high-rise apartment projects, and that these projects could be exempt from property taxes for up to 30 years, depending upon the terms of the conduit bonds that they would be issuing. I know that there are several commissioners on this dais that are concerned about this, but yet we have not taken any constructive actions to try to have legislation passed that would preclude the Kansas City Area Transit Authority from accessing the property and sales tax exemptions. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have 2 or 3 items. March 29, the evening thereof, next Tuesday at 5 p.m. is our joint meeting with the Mental Health Advisory Board, beginning at 5 p.m. That'll be in room 200 in this building. And we do have a study session scheduled for 11 a.m. We're not going to make it, my guess. I'm going to suggest that we continue that till, 11:15? Can we make it? That will be in the lower level. Should last about 45 minutes or an hour. So we should be done shortly after 12 noon. Do we need a motion to do that? Let me hear a motion that we schedule our study session at 11:15. Ms. Hanslick?
I'm glad to do that, Mr. Chair. Is it a study session or a committee of the whole?
Study session.
Study session. I move that we convene our study session at 11:15 in the lower level of the county admin building.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to push the study session back to 11:15 a.m. Any further questions or comments? If not, clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Aye.
Commissioner and Chairman Eilert.
Aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. One last very important item. The State of the County will be held Tuesday, March 29. At the luncheon and address will be in the Overland Park Convention Center. The networking begins at 11:30. Dinner will be served at noon or a little before, and program will begin at about 12:25.
Who's the speaker this year?
I'm not sure yet. We're still practicing, so.
Looking forward to it.
All right, we are adjourned. We'll come back in about 2 or 3 minutes for agenda review. Thank you all very much.